Welcome back to another episode with Pushing Back Chaos. It's Mike. Melon this week is not going to be on the show. We're still trying to work out this schedule. It's not easy. So before he was in Saudi, I'm on the East Coast of the United States. Melon is now 12 hours ahead of me. So literally when I'm waking up, he's going to bed and, vice versa. So we're trying to adjust. Melon has a lot going on with adjusting, getting back to Australia, setting up stuff with the family and everything. Um, yeah, life never stops for any of us, and he's doing the best that he can. He's doing a great job. But I'm going to cover down for this episode. And man, I am humbled and excited for today's guest. So last week, I mentioned a friend of mine that I haven't seen in 12 years from Afghanistan. And man, he came out. I had a party. He showed up and I got to see him, dude. And it was just so nice seeing him again. And I talked to him over the last week or two, and he's been catching up on listening to the podcast. I think, I don't know, he's around the 20s or something. So he's got a lot to listen to. But I was like, hey, man, how would you like to come on and just share your story? Because you're about to hear he's doing some great things out in the veteran community, but also just for himself. And he's got a really great message. So here to welcome our friend Allen Wellington. Uh, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
All right, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, dude, we'll just kick it off. Why don't we go ahead and just, introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, kind of your backstory, and then we can kind of get into the funny story, how we met, and some of the stuff from there, and then we'll get on to the future about what you're doing now.
Okay. Yeah. My name's Allen Weddington. I served in the United States Army. Served away to pretty much the end of 2017. Stationed mostly in Hawaii. I went to Fort Hood. Did two tours, one in Iraq and Afghanistan, both with the 25th Infantry Division. I live in Gillett, Pennsylvania, with my wife and three kids. And I live in Gillett, Pennsylvania, with my wife and three kids. And own a Clydesdale farm, a little small Clydesdale farm, and enjoying life.
That's awesome, man. Pennsylvania guy. So here, I'm from Western Pennsylvania, and here's Alan hitting me up, being like, "Hey, man, I'm a few hours away from there, and what if my wife and I came down and joined to see?" I was like, "You live in Pennsylvania now, and you didn't tell me." You know? So I was like, "Dude, we could have done this years ago."
Yeah.
So, but I'm glad the way things work out, and that we met when we did, man, because it was just that much more meaningful um seeing you again at the right time with everybody at the party, and that. So yeah, so man, army guy, right? So everybody has this very prideful. It's like, oh, we're in different branches, we're doing different stuff, whatever. It totally get it, but for the civilians and people that don't understand, it's like we actually really respect each other. And when I first met Alan going back to Afghanistan, I was part of a very small task force that came in that was an army, and was working with some international partners. And we came in and they're like, "Hey, you guys are flying with the 25th and conventionals and that stuff like that." And I'm like, "Well, I've never worked with them before, but okay, like we'll see how things turn out." And man, did it turn out really cool, because they all turned out to be some of my best friends. And till this day, I still call it my absolute best and favorite deployment for so many more reasons than just combat. But yeah, Alan, what your story, man? Like, what was your first memory of like kind of hopping into that deployment, Afghanistan, and then learning that you guys were going to work with us and first meeting us? What did you think?
So my original MOS, so my job in the Army, was a 92 Foxtrot. So it was a petroleum supply specialist. And we got back from Iraq. Our first sergeant was asking for volunteers to be door gunners for the aerosol company, the Wolfpack. Shout out to the Wolfpack. Um,
Wolfpack?
and I raised my hand. Nobody else was raising their hand. I volunteered. Didn't know what I was signing up for. Didn't really care. I knew that these guys would go outside the wire, supporting other nations, and I wanted to be out there. I wanted to be helping. And yeah, my first sergeant yelled at me. He's like, "You haven't even done your job. You've been in. I think I've been in like 4 years at the time." And he's like, "You haven't even done your job." I'm like, nobody else is raising their hand for a sergeant, so I want to do it. So end up doing it, and yeah, getting to Afghanistan, which is totally different from Iraq, for where we were at in Iraq. Uh, Iraq didn't really get too cold, but where we were at in Afghanistan, up in the mountains, it got cold. Pretty much my first experience, really, because I'm originally from the South. I'm originally from Arkansas. It doesn't get that cold, so got to experience snow and the cold for the first time. Um, and so we got in there. Yeah, that was the first team that got in there. Pretty much did our right seat, left seat with the unit that was leaving. Which their mission, from what I remember, was a complete 180 from what we were doing. And yeah, learned that we were supporting you guys and supporting some other nations. And pretty much going outside the wire every single day, along with doing a quick reaction force, with pretty much being on standby, and also doing medevac chase. Yeah, from what I've been through in Iraq, it was completely different. It was every day gun ho, and there were some times, there were definitely some scary times that pretty much made me kind of think at the time, like, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
But the
So
camaraderie.
yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
so about that, like we're talking about, let's talk about that first step, right? And we're just kind of sharing the stories between Alan and I, and we haven't really talked a lot about this, so we thought it'd be cool to come on the episode and kind of share each other's, perspectives and remember some good memories, but also a lot of lessons learned and how life changes, right? For all of us, not just military guys, but everybody in general, right? Um, you're talking about, man, it was completely different. That was my first combat deployment, right? So going into that, I was 23 years old, and man, my head was on fire, piss and vinegar, the whole deal. And I was so stoked to get out there, and that I'm getting in there with meeting all these guys. And you're right, the previous unit, 101st, not knocking them. It was just always a reflection of certain leadership, I'll just say. And
Oh yeah.
they were not aggressive from what I saw. We were trying to do some really good work, and yeah, the whole thing was like shut down the province from any movement. We struggled with that particular unit. When you guys rolled in, it was a completely different feel. We had a previous guest, retired Colonel Kelly Hines was the battalion commander, and man, a true leader of soldiers, if there ever was one. Just a shout out to Kelly. He's out doing a phenomenal job in the community. I believe he's running for Senate.
Yeah, for Oklahoma. Yeah.
For Oklahoma, yeah. So he's in the running right now, trying to serve his community and his country in a whole completely different way outside the military. So shout out to Kelly. But that environment was, I remember sitting down with Raf and telling him, I was like, dude, I remember I first met Kelly and I met all you guys, and the conversation was private, but it was, we're here to kill bad people, and we're going to do it very, very efficiently. And that was the tone for the entire deployment and the attitude. And we loved it. That's what we were there to do. We were there to take it to the enemy. And, I was on the ground and got really close to the wolf pack. And the wolf pack is the company name that they have. And, Alan was one of the door gunners there that provided cover, and, working in Raf's Blackhawk, and, an extension of old Tio there. But, yeah, and that was kind of the first image, man, was like, dude, we're getting into some serious stuff, and it's going to get real. Yeah.
It definitely got real. But you can, like you were saying, you can ask for a better team. you know, these guys that I flew with, from the pilots to, Colonel Hines, our company commander, Captain Smalley at the time, and all the door gunners and the crew chiefs. You could not ask for a better team, better camaraderie that we had, and you had no doubt in your mind that these guys they were going to have your back.
Yeah. It's crazy how that all evolved for us there. But I think it really just came down that we all saw, I don't know, I view it this way. I really feel like we all saw through the rank. We all saw through
Yeah,
the flashy stuff, and we really just got to know each other as human beings, really, starting it off the right way of having a serious conversation. All right, maybe not so serious. I remember walking into the CP. I had like a Steeler shirt on. I got my hair, my beard, and looking like a degenerate. Walking into a CP full of pilots and door gunners, and was interesting to say the least. You got Tio over there, with his perfect, black Mexican hair. You got Boggs in there walking around, strutting like a turkey. I mean, there were so many dynamics in there that it was like, you guys are completely different. Um, and it started off unconventional, but man, it was just really spending time together, really getting to know each other, having movie nights. You guys would come hang out at our end of the base and have fires and just talk about life, man, and home and anything but the war. And we really
yeah,
got to know each other, which really set it up. And then it was go time, dude. It was all business. You go out and yeah, every single time, man, every time we went out, even now I have such an appreciation knowing that when we got inserted on the ground and I'm on listening on the radio, hearing you guys talk, it was time to move. It was like, dude, we're going to be fine. I know who's coming to pick us up. I know who's dropping us off or whatever. Like, we're going to be okay. And having that blanket of security just allowed me and the guys to work in such a realm that like I really haven't experienced like that since. So yeah, I mean, you guys were
yeah.
awesome. You guys were awesome.
I have, yeah, I'm the same way. I haven't experienced that, just that brotherhood, that camaraderie, that not necessarily like the trust, but I haven't experienced that since leaving that unit anywhere in the rest of my career.
Yeah. Well, it just really shows, like we said, leadership. It starts with leadership in all aspects, which builds the culture and what it allows and what the culture is being allowed to become. And there was a lot of failure in there too, man. Like a lot of people think that it's just, oh man, it's just you show up and it happens. No, there's a lot of hard discussions. There's a lot of failures and mistakes and humility
Yeah.
that is poured into that stuff. And that's what it was for us. Um, what was what would you say, Alan, was one of the most surprising things about, going into that deployment? Uh, like you looked at it one way, but then when it all happened, that it completely changed your mind about everything. Like, oh, I thought it was going to be this way, but then something happened and life kind of changed. What would you say that is?
There was a particular mission that uh, we were on, with the pilot was Raf, and one of the pilots was Raf, and then we had Mr. Ingraham, Ben Ingraham. Um, that that particular mission pretty much changed everything for me. It is not to the point where, okay, I'm done. I'm not going back out. No, I'm still going to continue mission, whatever. But um, it surprised me on how I reacted to that. I mean, I know Raph has talked about this mission before, on Not Your Average Operator. Um, but we was supporting you guys in another country, going in after one particular guy, and it turned into going to be a quick mission to, uh, excuse my language, all hell breaking loose. Uh, we were getting shot at by small arms fire. We had, uh, shot at by RPGs, and a mortar, like literally landing feet behind our aircraft. And the mission ended up being a success, which was great. No casualties. I think one aircraft had a bullet hole, and I think there was an Apache that pretty much crashed right on the outside of the fob after getting fuel. Pilots were okay, but you guys ended up getting your guy, and we got out of there safely. But that particular valley, like when we got our briefing, from the assets that we were supporting, it was like, all right, this is Operation Alpha. We got Bravo, we got Charlie. We don't know which we're going to go. And that particular one was Alpha. And every time that they would talk about, doing the briefing, it's like, all right, we're probably going to hit Alpha. And in my mind, like, are you kidding me? We're going back to that valley. I didn't think that I wasn't thinking at the time, like, no, the destinations or the areas change. But every time they would bring up, we're going to do Alpha, and we're going to go right back to that valley. But that it surprised me, like I was saying, how I reacted hearing that we might go back into that valley.
How did you react? How did you feel prior to the first time we went in, and then what changed knowing that we were going back a second time?
So it got me nervous when the possibility of going back into that valley. I mean, to be frank, I mean, we could have died, and ground troops could have died. Yeah, to be honest, I was scared. I was nervous. But I was going to force myself to do it anyway. Because I'm not a quitter. I'm not going to, just because I almost died here, or my crew, myself or my crew almost died on that mission. I'm not going to stop. The mission's got to continue. We still got to support our assets. Yeah. So I forced myself to continue mission, even though I'm scared or nervous. My adrenaline's pumping. I didn't care. I still had to keep going.
That part right there, I mean, let's just pause. Taking in the reality, and this is for everybody, right? There's always something that we experience in life that scares the shit out of us, right? That breaks us, that brings us to the point. And automatically, I think just the protection thing is we go, I don't ever want to do that again. I don't ever want to come here again. I don't ever want to see this person again. I don't ever, like, whatever. But then, listening to Alan, and I could totally relate, because I was scared too every time I went out. I'm not ashamed to say that. I had fear in me that maybe today was the day, right? But what gets us past that? What gets us back to that worst moment? Because I truly believe, and Alan, I mean, speak free on this, man, but I truly believe we need to revisit what scares us the most.
Exactly.
Sometimes when something intimidating comes up, we shy away from it, not so much because of what it is. More than likely, it's because we don't think we're prepared to handle it and we'll fail, right? Which is an internal struggle for a lot of guys. So, I mean, if it's like, hey, I want you to wake up tomorrow and go run a marathon, it's like, dude, I haven't ran in years. Like, I can't do it, right? Because I know I'm just going to show up and fail. But it's like, hey, maybe in a year I train for it and I go back to it. Yeah, it scares me a little bit, but man, I can prepare for this. I know what to do differently. I know how to get ready for this. And yeah, it scares me, but man, I can do it. It's a possibility. And when it's not just for you, but when it's for people around you that you love and that you care about, like we did, anytime I was on the ground, it was like, man, I need to pick the best spot for HLZ. or post security to protect my friends. And whenever they were putting us in, they're like, hey, we need to make sure we're not putting them in a bad spot to set them up for failure and get them hurt or killed, and it was a genuine love for something bigger than yourself. And I think
Yes.
that brought us back to that point. Correct me
Yeah,
if I'm
most definitely. No, I 100% agree. 100% agree. I mean, for every veteran or every combat veteran that's has been in it, that you're not thinking about yourself at all. You're thinking about the person next to you, or the people on the ground. And for my case, or the pilots, you're not thinking about yourself at all. You're thinking about your brothers and your sisters that are out there with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I
So
agree.
going back in, you guys went back to the valley, right? You're scared. You found your reason why that you should go. And everything kind of turned out pretty well, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, definitely. Nothing. I think the rest of that deployment, nothing compared to that day. Yeah, we didn't have a mission like that. The rest of that deployment. Uh, that we were working with some badass guys. You included. You guys did not care. You guys knew what you were going for, and we were there to make sure you guys got out safe.
It was it was a team effort, 100%. We could not have done our job if it wouldn't have been for the entire team. And I'm not just talking about you guys in the aviation world, man. I'm talking about the cooks that got up early because
Yep.
we worked weird hours, and they would be there cooking breakfast for us in the mornings, or coming home late, way past dinner time on the fob, and we'd have dinner waiting for us. Um, you know, the engineers, the mechanics, literally the intel, like every single person had a role and a responsibility. And I grew an appreciation for what team really meant. I'll be honest, man, like being in the unit that I would, that I'm in, and how we work, we kind of walk around thinking that, like, hey, we're the cock of the walk. Um,
Yeah.
like, hey, we're here. It's time to work. There's guys like that, man. That whole deployment and that entire command and how it was, dude, it really just genuinely felt like friends and family, caring for one another. Like, hey, what do you need, man? Like, I'll break my back for you to go out there. And then, like, I always wanted to show appreciation for that because I knew a lot of people looked up to us. And it was like, dude, like, I couldn't be out there if you guys didn't do what you do. Like, you see how important you are? Like, I ain't walking 30K to this valley and get my ass shot off. I was like, I want you guys to fly me in, and I want you to like me. Like, we had some real big conversations there, but it was like I said, it was just pushing past the titles and the devices and the, hey, we're this and you're that and we're better and you're not, and we do stuff different. Where it was like we got rid of all of that stuff, and it was just so nice to just wake up, know you had purpose, but also being part of a group that had group purpose and what we were doing. And every single person that I've talked to from that deployment, whether it's you, whether it's Raf, we got our buddy Pat, Smalley, Boggs, like all these guys, have all taken such amazing lessons from that environment and applied it to their own life, you
Yeah.
know? And it was a fun time, but there was a lot of heavy hits that we
Yes.
took. And I see it on the back. For those that watch on YouTube, you can see some of the names on the behind Alan on his trailer here. And I know some of those guys. I served with some of those guys. There was a couple things that happened in there that really just like tore us up. And Alan would be the best guy to speak on it if you want to. But ultimately happens. But man, there's some big lessons that came out of it. Alan, turn it over
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah, we lost two Blackhawks during that deployment. Diamond Head 2-0 and Aussie 7-2. And Diamond has Diamond Head 20's anniversary is actually coming up next week.
What's the
But
date, just so people can know?
April 19th.
April 19th. Okay.
Yeah. We lost some great brothers. One that forgive me, it's still to this day, no matter how long it's been, it still hurts.
Yeah.
I mean, Kraus, Suresh Kraus. He was on Ozzy 7-2, and they were the ones that got hit by an RPG, supporting ground our assets that we support on a daily basis. And I remember to that day, I remember I was flying. Actually, I think I was flying with Boggs, and we heard a fallen angel. And for guys at home, fallen angel means down aircraft. Fallen angel over the comms, and I know Boggs can back this up. Like he was trying to get permission to get out there to try just to support air cover and get some air cover in the area. We kept getting denied, but I remember getting back and just waiting to find out who it was. And for backstory, Suresh actually was with our company pretty much almost halfway through the deployment, and that unit lost, Diamond Head 20, and they needed some more pilots, and he went over to that unit. And I remember him always eating stir fry. That was his favorite.
Yeah.
And the last time I actually saw him, it was actually Quincy and I were going home for R&R. And the last time I saw him was in Kandahar. That's where we flew out of to go home. And there's this Kandahar was huge, and they had this huge boardwalk, like huge market or whatever. And we were walking around, and there was Kraus sitting right there eating his stir fry, and we give him crap, just having a good time, just talk about how we missed him up there and Wolverine, and that was the last time I saw him, and that was July 2012. But yeah, that deployment we lost a lot of great pilots, lost door gunners. And I had a buddy that I deployed with in Iraq for my first deployment, Jason Swindle. He actually got killed. I think he got killed and got hit by an RPG and died of his wounds. And he got killed during that deployment as well. And yeah, that deployment we took a huge hit.
Yeah.
And it took a hit to our morale as well, and our motivation, like not just myself but everybody there. But
on my side of it, dude, so people aren't tracking. So when all this happened, I had to leave. I left in May. So before they lost these Blackhawks and people were starting to get hit. So I took that home with me. So when I came back, and I'm not saying this like this is not bragging rights. This is like I didn't want to leave my family, my second family. It was just time to come home. The orders were up, the time frame was there, and it was like, hey, you're going back. I knew that there was some really big missions coming up because I helped plan them. And we were looking at stuff, and man, I really struggled for a long time because of this. So imagine leaving your family in a war zone and doing the stuff that we were doing, fully capable of like taking it to the enemy and watching out for each other, and just that amazing bond that we had, and then getting pulled out of it right when it was getting really bad. And I had to sit at home, and I was getting emails or messages from these guys talking about, hey man, they're really starting to shoot at the aircraft. Hey, they're really starting to hone in on this. And then boom, we lost the Black Hawk. And then boom, we lost another one. And had some of my teammates on them and everything. So it hit my community. There were some other of my teammates that got killed on the ground, and the medevac unit that I worked with were evacing these guys out. And you know, the one guy in particular passed away, you know, during the flight. And I went to his funeral here back home, and it was some of the medevac people and talking to these guys in the wolf pack of like, yeah, man, we flew out and got him and that whole thing. And I wasn't there. And man, if you ever had a feeling of like feeling like the biggest piece of shit about not being there for someone, knowing that your friends are getting shot at and losing helicopters and doing everything, and I'm sitting at home on a couch watching like pointless TV, like reality shows and all these things that literally mean nothing. I was married at the time. I wasn't present with my wife. I was constantly thinking, like, how do I get back there? I know I have to get back there because these guys are there for another 6 months without me. And all I wanted to do is figure out how to get back to be there for them. And I couldn't. I literally, by law and like everything else, could not go back. And dude, I was miserable. I felt like I had no purpose. I felt like I was a quitter, like I was out of the fight. And there was still plenty of fight to be had. And as a young 23-year-old man, I never understood that. I never experienced that before. I never thought about that. Externally, I was very selfish. I was thinking about only me. I wasn't thinking about my relationship or my family here. And the whole reason I even went over to there, I completely forgot about that. And I was so worried about my military family and my friends there. It was so backwards, dude. Like it hit me like a brick wall, and I never expected it, and I was not prepared for it. And I was just struggling while you guys were over there doing all this. Like that's from my side.
Yeah, I feel you on that. You know, if I was in your shoes, I would do the same thing. I would fight, try to get back over there and try to stay. But I know you. I think in the previous episode you were talking about that. Your command just told you no, you're going home.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. We were I actually re-enlisted while we were there. I knew the unit Wolfpack was deploying again to Afghanistan. I think a year later after we got back, and I pretty much told them that I want to re-enlist and stay with this unit and deploy again because I believe they were supposed to go back to the same area, same area of operation, and I wanted to go back just because I knew them and I wanted to be there for them, be there with them, but it kept getting denied from Big Army, kept denying it. So I would resubmit the paperwork, and then it denied again. So it took, I think, sergeant major, our battalion sergeant major, and our first sergeant moronic calling headquarters and finding out why my packet kept getting denied. And it's like, oh, he's already got orders to go to Fort Hood. And I just told him, no, I don't want to go. I want to stay here. And it's like, it's already too late. Your unit's already expecting you. I'm like, all right. And I get there. Actually got to Fort Hood, and they were deploying. Like I met our battalion sergeant major, and he says, don't get comfortable. You're deploying. You're going to Afghanistan in like 2 months. I was like, oh, great. Where are we going? And he's like, we're going to, I think, North Afghanistan. I was like, oh, great. I just got back. So I know the area. So let's go. He's like, oh, when'd you get back? I was like, 2 months ago. He's like, yeah, no, you're not going. And I told him, I was like, I'll go. I don't care. Yeah. You can waive the whole rest. I can't remember what it's called, rest period. And he's like, reset, and I'll go. He's like, yeah, no, we'll send you to another unit. Which was a good thing because I actually met my wife at Fort Hood. So if I deployed, I wouldn't have met her.
Man, how about that? What an amazing shift in I share this a lot lately, but everything comes to an end one of two ways: the way you want it to, and the way it does. And the goal
Yeah,
is to be okay with both, because I'm sure 100% if you would have went and deployed again, you would have been totally fine with it. But that's not what you got. It's the hand that you got dealt, and you took it. And then look what came from that, is meeting your wife. Like
yeah,
there was opportunity in both.
yeah. It definitely was. But I mean, I prefer meeting my wife than going back over there.
And you know what, man? And that's I think what we're talking about here today. We both went from being young and getting after it, and kind of being selfish in a lot of ways as men. And we always say we're selfish gorillas. We walk around with our knuckles dragging, and we just want to chase and do what we want to do. But man, I think when we do have enough of those times, it it's inevitable that we're going to have a moment and pause, being like, what are we really doing here? Like, what's our purpose? What should I be doing as a man, as a human being? Like, what am I really doing? Is it really just going over to war and killing people like all the time, or being part of that? No. There's more to
No,
life
no.
than war. There's more to life than the military. There's more to life than just servicing, that sort of stuff. But family and being present, being home, uh, other ways to give, other ways to serve other people. I mean, military is not the only place to serve. I mean, there's police, fire, first responders, but I mean, teachers. I mean, there's great teachers out there who take the time to serve children and teach them about life and how to become better people. There's people all the time that are serving other people, and charities, churches. I mean, you name it, man. Community groups. There's always people looking to help other people in different ways. Um, I didn't always see it that way, and I don't think you did. I know
No.
we've all talked Raph and Mellon and different guys. It's like we got what we wanted in our career and had it the way we wanted to, but then that was all going to end anyway. And when it's over, now what? Now who are we?
Yeah.
Now what's our purpose? Where's my crew at? Where's the wolf pack? You know what I mean? Like, we lose
I
that.
yeah. Yeah. I agree. Uh, you lose like pretty much your identity of who you are as a person, as a man or a woman. Uh, you lose that.
Yeah.
Uh,
How was that when you got out of the military? So how long has it been since you got out? And then what's transition been like for you?
so I've been out almost 6 years, and the later part of my career was, for better words, terrible. Um, I was dealing with a lot of anxiety, depression, and I pretty much it was my wife that told me, it's like, you need to go get help, and not just like therapy, but I was also, I had surgery, so I was recovering, and then I went down, had another surgery, and that turned into like a three to 4 month recovery time. Uh, and that was actually in Hawaii. But I went back to Hawaii to try to find that camaraderie again, and it wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
The environment, the attitude, everything changed, and that changed the outlook of the Army for me. But the command I had at the time was, they were all about numbers
Yeah.
and training, and uh, I expressed what I was going through. And I had a platoon sergeant, which was great. He was great, but he ended up PCSing like, I think, 4 months after I left or got there. But I ended up getting a new platoon sergeant that didn't care, And I know my wife can back me up on that. Complete a-hole attitude, didn't care. And so I was going through therapy, trying to get better and talking about different missions and talking about the buddies I lost and just trying to get through it, trying to get into the day to day. And my episodes, I would say episodes, got worse. And I couldn't function. And I was getting pumped with medication. And after my last surgery, my command just said, we're going to push you out. We're gonna push you out. I think it's your time. You need. My commander at the time he was good. He was, the way he explained it, he's like, you need to focus on yourself and focus on your family. So we're gonna put in for an honorable medical discharge. So he's like, you're he's like, text me every morning to let me know that you're okay.
Wow.
And he's like, do what you got to do. He's like, once your packet's approved, he's like, go through the whole process of getting evaluated, and we'll get you processed out. And at the same time, because I was promotable, and I was promotable to E6, and when you get pretty much get medically retired or medically discharged, you go, if you're promotable, you get the next rank. And they stripped that away. So I didn't get the E6 promotion when I got out, which would help with benefits because I got retirement pay as well from the Army. Yeah, so that would have helped. But he pretty much stripped that away. So I got out as an E5. When I got out of the military, everything got worse, and I struggled with who I am. I struggled with my identity. I couldn't hold down a job because I was constantly having episodes. I tried starting my own business, being outside. I started my own fencing company. Pretty much and that hit rock bottom. Didn't even last a year. Yeah, contemplated suicide numerous times, and I actually attempted twice. And that's a story for another time. But,
sure, that's okay.
It almost cost me my marriage too, and the medication that the VA that was giving me. I mean, I was taking 10 to 15 different pills a day.
Wow.
One was sleep, and just depression, trying to anxiety. I couldn't really go out in public. I had this. It was a good job. I worked on horse trailers for this fancy horse trailer company, and ended up getting sick and going to the hospital, and I blacked out. I had a major episode, and I blacked out, and I from what I was told is I struck out at the doctor, and next thing I know, I'm in a psych ward for a couple of days. And then I lost my job. So because of that, which come to think of it now, I could have sued him for it because that was, discrimination. But yeah, I struggled. I didn't work. I pretty much stayed at home, watched the kids, went to my appointments. My wife was working pretty much 5-6 days a week as a correctional officer for the state of Texas. And our marriage was like plummeting.
Yeah.
Divorce was on the table. Like my wife just couldn't handle it no more. And I was understandable because I was very violent in my sleep, and she just couldn't take it no more. And things started to turn around when her and I went on a date, a little date day to this huge mall down in South Texas where we were at, and they had this mounted unit. on horseback. They was patrolling the area. They did patrol bars and stuff. And I'm like, I went up to one of them and asked, like, what do you do? What type of training do you need? Do you have to do? And what's your job? Is that, oh, we get paid to patrol this area, patrol, businesses and bars and concerts, and we pretty much get paid to ride our own horse.
Hmm.
And I was like, where do I sign up? Because I had we had two horses. No, we had four horses at the time. We had two big Belgians, big draft horses that we rescued, then our two regular horses, a quarter horse and an Arabian. I was like, where did I sign up? And I applied and I got the job like a couple days later. And I was very upfront and honest. I'm like, look, I have anxiety, I have depression. I was like, but I need to do something outside. I was like, I can't be in an office or in a store or whatever, but I want to do this. And that job pretty much made me better, being around the horses and working with my own horse every single day.
Yeah.
And our marriage started getting better, and my wife left and quit her job as a CEO, and she wanted to do what I was doing. So I got to work with my wife every single day. We rode in together, we rode together. Yeah.
Man.
Not a lot of people get to say, that, not a lot of people can say they enjoy that, I guess, working with their spouse all the time. But I mean, it was different for us because we both enjoy being around horses.
Yeah. And I want to get into that for a minute, man, but just a recap. And to be clear, I didn't know some of this about Alan. This is the first time I'm hearing it. And I love you and I appreciate you sharing this because like I'm over here just like appreciating you even more as a friend and as a person. It takes a true warrior to talk about what you're talking about, man. And I'm proud of you. Like this is big. And I know there's a lot of people out there who are struggling with a lot of the same stuff. Just a quick recap. You go from Afghanistan to having the time of your life, which I was in the same boat, and the top of the mountain, and then pretty much a slow decline down the backside of the mountain, all the way down until you're literally getting stripped away of your identity and your purpose, right? Which I hear all the time about veterans transitioning and getting out of the military, whether you retire after 20 years or you're medically discharged after 2 years, like whatever it is, no one gets a pass. Everyone's going to struggle with transition and what you're doing, what your purpose is. And hearing you just go down and down and down and down. But still, and I want to give you acknowledgement here, is that you never called it quits, that you kept going forward, just trying to make it day by day, which is a battle within itself. Take away everything else. It's a battle within itself of making it day to day when minutes seem like hours and nothing's happening in your life. And hunting for who am I? I think we've all asked ourselves that question. Who am I? What am I doing? Why did that happen? And as Raph always says, like, what are you expecting? You expecting to get a phone call from God being like, hey, by the way, I just want to let you know all this went through here because I got plans. It's like, it's kind of silly when you're expecting asking the question of why.
Well, I mean, not to cut you off or anything, but God did, like, he didn't technically call me, but he gave me a sign.
And what was that?
A very big. So when I attempted suicide, it was before my wife. And I planned it. Like the first time I attempted suicide, and I took a whole bottle of Benadryl, and just to pretty much I wanted to pass out and just not wake up. And I woke up, covered, pretty much covered. I mean, too disgusting and everything, but I was covered in my own stuff. But I woke up, and looking back on it, like I didn't have any anything negative come from that. That when I did research, like the symptoms of taking, a whole bottle of Benadryl is like you have seizures, you have brain, it can lead to a lot of medical defects. And I didn't get none of that. But the one that pretty much told me that, okay, I have a purpose here. Sorry, there's a lot of photos through.
You're good.
The one that really spoke to me is I went out hunting and in quotation, and I put my shotgun in my mouth.
Mhm.
I wasn't sleeping. I was constantly having nightmares. And particularly that one mission, like details kept changing and we kept crashing and mortar landing on top of our. I mean, it's taken me years to be able to talk about all this.
Yeah.
But back to it, like I put the shotgun in my mouth and I pulled the trigger and nothing happened. And that spoke to me. Like, okay, I get it. You have something else for me. You have other plans for me. And then like pretty much like a month and a half later, I met my wife, and I pretty much adopted two kids, two of my kids. Well, I pretty much became a father at that point after her and I got married. But I had two stepsons that pretty much kept me straight.
Yeah.
And but yeah, you were talking about the God. I figured I would bring that up because I mean, yeah, it's not really a phone call, but there's ways that he let you know, hey, there's something else in the works for you. I got plans for you. It might be rough now, but just better things are coming in the future.
Wow, Alan.
And I'm pissed at myself because I know I had this brotherhood but I back then the whole masculinity, it's weak to look at, reach out for help and looking at it now. I mean, just now, like, I should have reached out to people instead of just trying to deal with it on my own back then.
Well, you're not alone in that. I mean, I've done the exact same. I mean, half these episodes are about how I've messed things up, and Melon as well, and Raph, and thinking we know better, that we can just handle the world and take everything on our shoulders just because of a title or what we used to be or what we used to do literally means nothing. Um, and just being completely transparent, and I told you at the party when I saw you and we were talking, I was like, dude, I thought up until last November I had everything in order and I was in control still. I'm 36, and
Yeah.
what it took for me, I just talked about this morning at church, actually, man. Someone came up and asked me, and they're like, what's up with you with all the God stuff and trying to be better and all this. And I said, well, if there's one thing I know, dude, I didn't find God when I was happy. I found God when I was on my knees and I was screaming silently screaming that I needed help, that I was tired and exhausted and I was lost. And I don't care who you are as a person, like, everyone is capable of breaking, and
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. And the difference is, man, I love saying that I'm part of a brotherhood. I really do. But when it comes to matters like this, it
Yeah.
means a completely different thing when I can look at another person, another man in particular that's my friend, and tell him I love him. And he can come to me on his worst day and not feel embarrassed and not feel like, a POS, to not feel like he's subhuman or not deserving of love or uh, respect or forgiveness or grace. It's like, man, that is a whole nother level to me, Alan. And That's why I love we're having this conversation now. I think this is why we haven't seen each other in 12 years, because we've had a lot of life to live and a lot of time to fail and a lot of things to learn.
Yeah.
And when we talk about these things, we figure out, man, I'm not by myself. Like, you're really realizing a lot of things in the pain when you can't see them, and that there is purpose in all things. I literally just wrote down on here about, having some consistency over time, but really everything good and bad that we were experiencing, that we're going through, is actually an essential piece of the journey to find your real purpose as a person. And the more I've been getting to know Alan, even before this show, he's telling me about his horses, and he's like, dude, you should come up and be around him. And I've done a little bit of work on him, but it all guided him to his wife. It all guided him to what
Yeah.
amazing things he's doing now. And I want to talk about it because I worked with a horse a little bit 3 years ago. I was in severe depression. I was in depression for over a year and a half, almost 2 years. Um, and a former teammate who, unfortunately, uh, we lost by suicide. His girlfriend and him had a farm, and they had some horses. And the guy, his name was Baxter, and he was a quarter horse. He was 16 hands high, and he was stubborn.
That's a
And
big.
he liked headbutting me and whatever. And she goes, "Hey, have you ever rode a horse?" I said, "No, I've never ridden a horse." And she goes, "Well, why don't you come out and I'll introduce you to Baxter." So I'd go out, and she showed me how to brush him, how to take his stuff on and off. And he'd headbutt me in the face, and I'd look at him and be like, "What are you doing?" And it was really fun, but I got to like take care of them. I got to, and just walking them, and Alan can probably tell way more, but they listen and they can
They do.
communicate to you in so many ways. And it's equestrian health, and it's a big thing now within mental health, especially with veterans or children in particular too.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
so I have a little bit of experience, dude, and it was a beautiful relationship that I built with Baxter that I never thought could exist. But now, hearing Alan's story, which I didn't know, but I'm so glad that I do now, because I love and respect you even more, dude. Um, you found purpose after everything you've been through. You're still here, and you woke up today. Why don't you go and explain what you're doing now?
So on our off time, um, so dinner during the summertime, my wife, our kids, and I, we travel, and we do about 15 to 19 shows. Uh, yeah, in the year. One of our biggest ones is New York State Fair. We do Maryland State Fair, a lot of small county fairs, but we show Clydesdales. And you can look us up on Facebook, Old Glory Clydesdales. So very patriotic. You can probably see our logo right there.
Yeah, well, and we'll
Um,
put it in the show notes for everybody to see, and you can go visit.
um, but we got into it. My wife's dream was to, ever since a little kid, it was to own a Clydesdale. And it is one morning or one late night, she reached out to this farm, Owl Hollow Clydesdales down in Greencastle, PA, asking if they had any babies for sale. In which they had a couple babies that were due to be born that the coming spring, and they said that we would have our pick, and we bought our very first Clydesdale. Is called, her name is Sweet Cheyenne of Owl Hollow, and she is a moose right now. She's so big. We actually, our buddies came up and did some trimming, trimming of their hooves and stuff. We measured her, and horses measure in hands. There's 4 inches per hand, and she's at 17 hands.
Wow.
Big girl, and she's very wide. So
Don't tell her that.
but she has a personality, and if anyone has never been around horses, horses are pretty much like us, with personality. Every horse has their own quirks, their own attitude. Um, and Cheyenne is one of them. She has her own little attitude, her own little personality, and she's the first one to greet you in the morning and in the evening time when it's time to feed. She's the first one at that gate saying hi. Um, Beautiful animal. Uh, and then we showed down in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania for the Keystone International Livestock Expo. It's one of our biggest shows of the year. And our buddies reached out to us and it's like, hey, does Alan want to show? We have this 1-year-old that we're going to be bringing that we just got 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks before the show, whatever. It's like, does he want to show? I'm like, yeah, I'll show. I just followed that whole year. I followed my wife around and just helping her out with decorating and, decorating. And I was like, well, yeah, I'll show. And they brought this horse over and I showed her in a class and I fell head over heels for her. And her name is Sailor. And Northumberland Topsman Sailor is her registered name. And we call her Sailor. And she is 17.2 hands tall, and she's still growing.
Wow.
But she'll be turning 4 in June, and Cheyenne will be she just turned 3. Yeah, she just turned 3. So yeah, we've been traveling around, and my wife got me hooked to it, got me into it, and then we started driving. We got Sailor broke to drive, so now I'm driving her at a couple of shows, some of the smaller ones, and then hopefully next year we'll be doing driving 2 Clydesdales in a team. Just getting more and more involved with the showing, and then last year we got a colt. He's a male. His name is Warrior. He just turned a year old 2 weeks ago. His name is Warrior of Valhalla, and he is spicy. He talks to you. If you don't say hi to him, he's going to yell at you until you say hi. Like he'll whinny at you. But being around these horses every single day, going out just and doing chores or feeding them or brushing them, bathing them, it's made myself like it's its own therapy, like you were saying. And there's actually programs out there that does equine therapy, fixing fences, which is a veteran. It used to be veteran. Well, it's a veteran-owned company down in Maryland. They deal with nothing but equine therapy. They have cabins. They have a veteran room with like patches, coins. Then you also have the Chris Kyle Foundation down in South Texas. People don't know who Chris Kyle is. The movie Lone Survivor is based off of. Great guy.
No, it's American Sniper.
American Sniper, yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
not Lone Survivor. That's Lone Survivor, but yeah, American Sniper. Sorry.
Oh, good.
And but Chris Kyle, when he got out of the military, out of the Navy, he dedicated his life to helping veterans. And unfortunately, that end pretty much he ended up getting killed, murdered by one of the veterans that he was trying to help. But in his memory, his wife started a foundation in his name, and they actually have. I haven't had a chance to do it, but I would love to. They have a equine therapy facility in Southern Texas where it's all expense paid. They fly you down. Believe it's for 4 days. It's for 4 days. You get assigned a horse. You do group therapy. You do equine therapy, and at the end of the time, you get to go on this trail ride. and then the spouses are also allowed to do it as well. So they'll have the veteran come out, then they'll have the spouse come out for a week, and then you're able to come back as a couple. And they teach you techniques as, not just a veteran, but how to, for a spouse, how to deal with, the veteran with doing these symptoms and different treatment, and then like couples therapy, how to be with each other and doing the equine therapy as well. But yeah, just backtracking, being around these horses it's made me a lot better. And they feed off of you, they read you.
Oh yeah.
And if you are just down in the dumps, not having a good day, and you're out there just even just cleaning the stalls or whatever, they're right there, they're in your face, trying to trying to get you to pay attention to them, love on them. They can feel your emotions, and I think it's a very beneficial program, or a very beneficial therapy for veterans to look into.
I love that you said that, because what I experienced when I was working with Baxter, and I worked with him for about a year. It's exactly right. Is there was a connection, and that's what I needed, because when I was depressed, I felt like the connection that I had was ripped from me, and like
Yeah,
something was gone, and I couldn't turn it back on. I couldn't find it in other people at the time. And this is just my story, and everybody's different, but I wanted like a non-judgmental, loving connection without putting in this massive amount of effort that I just didn't have. I didn't have the energy for
yeah,
it. I didn't have the drive for it, whatever. And I remember the first time just standing there looking at this big horse and petting him and just saying, "Hi, that's nice to meet you, Baxter." And he looked at me, and it just like he knew, and it wasn't, sounding crazy. Get out and work with them, and you will see that like they truly do have a connection and feed off of you. If you feel nervous and you're out walking them, they'll let you know, like, "Hey man, I don't trust you right now." And they're going to start moving a little bit different. They can pick up
yep,
on every little thing if you're not confident, whatever it is. And man, he taught me so much. He brought me back down to earth, teaching me to be patient, teaching me to like watch what I do, show up, and like, I wanted to be positive for him, and then he was positive
yeah,
with me. And it was so much learning in that at the time, I don't know if I could get it from another person, especially a female, because ultimately it's
yeah,
like what led me down that path was a relationship. Um, and dude, it was a beautiful thing. And yeah, I don't know what I would have done without that, but it was kind of the same thing how it worked, man, is I knew I was tanking, and I knew I was in that. And this woman, Charlotte, heard about it, and a friend reached out and was just like, "I feel like you need to be here," and invited me out there and said, I would love for you to work with Baxter." And it was just what I needed when I needed it, not on my time, but I believe it was on God's time, because dude, I was praying harder than I think every single night. Uh, but there was purpose. And now I look forward, man, and it's like I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for all of it.
yeah. It definitely makes a huge impact. And they not only do it for veterans. They have a program up here actually called Rainbow Riders, um, and it's equine therapy for kids with disabilities.
Hmm.
Um, and they hold this huge event. They hold this huge event here once a year down in Troy, Pennsylvania, uh, to benefit their program. And they deal with kids with is blind, deaf, or just a numerous, a number of disabilities, and it doesn't cost the family a dime
Hmm.
for this therapy. And they bring these kids to shows, so they be able to do, running, not running, but doing the barrel pattern, or doing a jumping event, or a horsemanship class where they're leading the horse in or riding them around, and they're teaching them all the just basic stuff of riding and how to take care of a horse. And you can tell by how these kids look, how they're acting, like it makes a huge impact in their lives. And it's just not just horses as well. I mean, there's programs that deal with, with dogs or guinea pigs. There's program for guinea pigs. Any pretty much any. I think there's actually like what is it? Duck yoga, I believe.
That's something
Yeah.
Melon should go do. I'm gonna recommend that to Melon and do some duck yoga. That'd be great. Well, dude, I just, we're coming up on time here, and
Yeah.
I just got to tell you, man, I'm just very impressed with you, and being able to talk about these things that I know are not easy. And I felt every word of it, man, because in some way, shape, or form, you're talking about me. And when we, as men, as military guys, but as humans, man, it's just bare basics, right? We're all human. When we can communicate like this and share different things that we've been through, realizing that, like I said, the pain that you're in is part of the purpose. And
Yeah.
if you have the right things and the right people, and even if you don't, and maybe you just lean on prayer or some faith, that'll get you through it. And it's going to help you see the big picture of what's taking place. There is purpose in everything that we're being handed, right? On the mountaintop and in the valley, there's purpose to all of it. And if we just continue the journey and we stay steady and we keep our eyes on the horizon, knowing that, man, this is all going to come together, and keep that faith in there, it will.
Yeah.
And you got to be
Definitely.
patient. You got to be looking outward. You can't be suffocating yourself by just staring at yourself saying, I'm not happy. I'm struggling. I'm upset. When you start looking to others, when you start looking at something bigger than yourself, being selfless instead of selfish,
Yes.
being able to ask for help, you know, things like that, man, those to me are actions of a real warrior. We're not talking about fighting war, hand-to-hand combat. We're talking about inner warrior strength,
Yes.
having some courage to admit it. And in this day and age, we're sitting here talking about pushing back chaos. Raf said it the first time, so I'm giving him credit where credit's due. The world is chaos, and the world needs good men to lead in chaos. And part of
Yes.
being that leader is being a warrior. It's being a mentor. It's being a lover, and it's being a friend to everybody in our families and our relationships and our jobs, everything. That's what we should focus on. And you've shown that today, Alan, and I love it, dude. So
It's,
I want to tell you thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking the time on this Sunday. It's beautiful out, and I would love to be outside, but I don't want to be anywhere else but right here and listening to my friend talk about what you just shared. So thank you.
yeah. Thank you. And I wanted to add on. Yeah, like you were saying, don't be afraid to reach out. And I was in that, and pretty much I was in the shoes. I didn't want to reach out because I was afraid. And but things have changed. You 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 need to reach out, and don't be afraid to, because be afraid of what people are going to think or what people are going to say. But if you have family or friends that that through thick and thin they're going to be there for you, reach out to them. And I wish I would have reached out to you or Raf or Boggs or Quincy or anybody and from that unit. I wish I would have at that time.
Well, it's all a lesson. And now going forward,
Yeah.
the past is gone. The present is now. And, you have that choice. You're still here to
Yes.
make it. And now you can reach out. And not only that, man, but realize, what we're trying to do here is have that ripple effect that I always like to talk about, and being the conduit to let people know it's okay. The minute you feel that fear come over your body of like, I can't tell anybody this, or I'm too scared, that's when you put your chin up, pull your shoulders back, and you take a step and you do it anyway, because it
Yeah.
is the right direction. Like, from the bottom of my heart, if there's anything I could tell you, it is the right direction to go. It's so worth it. It's worth everything. It's worth
Yeah.
your life. So, Alan, yeah, man, dude, thank you so much for coming on. Uh, I loved your story. I love hearing about it. I'm honored to call you a friend and a teammate. Um, I'm excited for the future for our friendship, and when I get back of coming up to Old Glory Clydesdales and getting to deal with a truck with hooves, and and hopefully not get knocked on my ass. But yeah, dude, it's been great having you, and thank you so much for coming on. You're welcome back
Yeah.
anytime.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, if you got any questions for Alan, we're gonna toss his email, or I'm sorry, not his email, his website for Old Glory Clydesdales in the show notes, and feel free to reach out and check it out. If you have personal questions or like to let Alan know like how his story and what he shared affected you, please just email us at pushingbackchaos.com or message us on our social media on Facebook and Instagram, and I will personally make sure that he gets it. Yeah. Until next week, make sure you're reaching out, talking about your struggles, leaning on those that you love and that you trust. And if you don't have anybody, I might know a guy, and all you have to do is look up. So until next week, take care.